Psychoanalysis, spectatorship, and the gaze. This module explores the intersection of psychoanalytic theory and cinema, with a primary focus on how spectators are positioned within the filmic experience. Drawing from Freudian, Lacanian, and feminist psychoanalytic frameworks, we investigate how cinema mimics and manipulates the unconscious desires of the viewer. This involves interrogating how the camera, characters, editing, and narrative structure create identification, desire, lack, and fantasy. Central to this module is the concept of the gaze, a theoretical tool that explains how power, gender, and spectatorship interact in visual media. You will engage with works by theorists such as Laura Mulvey, Christian Metz, Jacques Lacan, Jean-Louis Baudry, and bell hooks to examine how classical narrative cinema reinforces ideological subject positions, especially concerning gender roles, objectification, and power relations. The module will also explore alternative modes of spectatorship, such as the oppositional gaze, queer gaze, and post-colonial visuality, offering students tools to deconstruct mainstream cinematic apparatus and imagine more inclusive and subversive forms of representation. Learning objectives. By the end of this module, you should be able to understand the principles of Freudian and Lacanian psychoanalysis as applied to cinema, define and critique the concept of the gaze, including the male gaze and its cultural implications, analyze how film positions viewers through mechanisms of desire, identification, and voyeurism, examine how gender, race, sexuality, and class shape and are shaped by cinematic spectatorship, critically engage with feminist, queer, and post-colonial responses to mainstream gaze theory, deconstruct the psychological mechanisms behind audience engagement and emotional investment in characters and narratives. Section 1. Foundations of Psychoanalytic Film Theory. Freud's psychoanalysis introduced the notion of the unconscious, repression, and the structuring of desire, which became central to film theory in the 1970s. Key Freudian concepts: Oedipus complex, foundational structure of desire and identity, displacement and condensation, fundamental operations of the dream work, fantasy, cinema as a space of wish fulfillment and symbolic resolution. Cinema, like dreams, enables viewers to repress reality, identify with fictional surrogates, and resolve unconscious conflicts. Christian Metz, a pioneer of psychoanalytic film theory, argued that film spectatorship mimics the dream state. In the darkened theater, the spectator becomes immobile, hypnotized, and emotionally vulnerable, identifying with the camera as a surrogate ego. Section 2. Lacanian Theory and the Mirror. Stage. Jacques Lacan's concept of the mirror stage is pivotal to understanding subject formation in cinema. The infant sees its reflection in the mirror and misrecognizes itself as a whole, unified being. This illusion of unity forms the basis of ego identity, but is always lacking and fragmented. In cinema, the screen becomes a symbolic mirror, allowing the spectator to identify with the characters, usually the protagonist who embodies qualities the viewer lacks. This process is central to spectatorial pleasure and emotional investment. Section 3. The Male Gaze and Feminist Film Theory. Laura Mulvey's 1975 essay, Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, introduced the theory of the male gaze. Classical Hollywood cinema is structured around male desire. Women in film are often passive objects, positioned as to be looked at. Men, on the other hand, are active agents, bearers of the look, and narrative drivers. Mulvey outlines 3 types of looks. Cameras look at characters, audiences look at the screen, characters look at each other. These looks are controlled by an invisible masculine point of view that promotes voyeurism, pleasure in watching from a distance, and fetishism, fragmentation or objectification of the female body to alleviate castration anxiety. Section 5. The Oppositional and Queer Gaze. While Mulvey's theory was groundbreaking, critics have challenged its exclusivity. Bell Hooks introduced the oppositional gaze, emphasizing how Black spectators resist white cinematic domination by creating counter-readings of films. Queer theory proposes a queer gaze that disrupts binary gender roles and heteronormativity. Post-colonial theories investigate how the colonial gaze exoticizes and objectifies non-Western bodies and cultures. These alternative gazes allow for polyvocal spectatorship, where the viewer is not passively positioned but can interpret or resist cinematic meaning. Section 6. Contemporary cinema and spectatorship. New media, streaming platforms, and experimental cinema have begun to deconstruct classical spectatorship. Point of view, POV shots, interactive narratives, and breaking the fourth wall reconfigure identification. Films like Moonlight or Portrait of a Lady on Fire attempt to craft gazes that are neither male nor oppressive, opening space for ethics of looking and empathic viewing. Key takeaways. Psychoanalytic film theory reveals how films mirror unconscious structures of desire and identity. The gaze is a powerful structuring force that shapes how viewers see and feel. Gender, race, sexuality, and class profoundly affect how spectators engage with films. Recognizing the gaze empowers viewers to resist ideological manipulation and embrace critical awareness.